This new SSD could give your Steam Deck a major speed upgrade. How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Deck Ready. Today I have a bunch of awesome Steam Deck news for you. We're at the end of the year. I thought the news would kind of be clearing up, but no, the Steam Deck is getting update after update lately, and I really want to talk about it. So I briefly mentioned the Game Awards in my last video. They were awesome. There were a ton of game announcements that really looked cool, specifically to me. It felt like for a couple of years there, a lot of games weren't really necessarily like hitting me as games I'd be a huge fan of, but seeing stuff like Death Stranding 2 and the announcement of Returnal, and of course The Last of Us Part 1 coming to PC, that's what really got me excited, because I bought The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5, and the entire time I was playing it, I was sitting there like, holy crap, I want to play this on the go on my Steam Deck. It's one of my favorite games of all time, easily in my top 5. And I know I use that phrase a lot, so do not go through my videos and count all the times I said top 5, because I'm pretty sure there's like 20 or 30 games in my top 5 at this point. Now, at first I wasn't entirely sure if we were being too ambitious by hoping to play The Last of Us Part 1 on the Steam Deck, just because it's a full-on remake of the original game for PS5, but with games like Spider-Man and Miles Morales, which are technically PS5 games, like made with that console in mind, we haven't seen a lot of issues running those games on the Steam Deck. I think Spider-Man is widely considered to be one of the best AAA experiences on the device, even if the cutscenes can be a little laggy at times. But, you know, if you're just cleaning up street crimes and stuff like that, it's pretty much the perfect way to play Spider-Man. Thanks to Yahaha for sponsoring this video. Yahaha is a new UGC platform for creating 3D interactive multiplayer experiences. And for those of you who have never heard UGC before, it stands for user-generated content. With this platform, you can create and publish your own experiences without any coding or server knowledge. Simply use the cool features, components, and smart assets in the Yahaha studio. There's around 1 million of them available to make your dream game. Yahaha also hosts regular live sessions for the community on Twitch to help them build out their user-generated content skills. So real quick, I'm going to demonstrate how easy it is to create your own experience in Yahaha and then load into it and try it out for yourself. So in the create menu of the Yahaha app, we're going to look for templates and then try out this hide and seek gameplay template. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the asset library and look for components. And once you're in the component menu, you want to add behavior player transformation into your account. It's free. I already own it, but you would click right here. And this is hide and seek, so we have to give ourselves an object to transform into. I like this dog statue, and then you can search for it, and once you find it, you just click on it, add to your account, I already own it, and then view it in the scene. Mine spawned up here in the sky, so I'm gonna move it down. And since I wanna transform into this statue, I'm going to click more, and then I'm going to add the community component I added to my account, and now I'll be able to transform into the statue. So once I hit play, I'm dropped right into the game, and you can see this statue right here, and now I have transformed into the dog statue, so I can move around and hide right here. Super simple. Check out the link below or scan this QR code to download Yahaha and start making your dream games now. And then if you look at something like the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, that also runs pretty damn well on the device. I've seen videos of it running at a hard lock 30 FPS at around original settings. You can of course use the built-in FSR. You can also activate FSR 2.0, which is built into the game, and that'll get you even better performance. And that honestly makes me feel like I'm playing Uncharted Golden Abyss on my Vita. That was one of the coolest experiences ever. Golden Abyss, despite the fact it wasn't made by Naughty Dog, I think is one of the better Vita games and one of the better Uncharted games. I'd rank it above the first game at the very least, and I went back regularly to play it while I was still playing on my Vita all the time. So when you take Spider-Man, you take Uncharted, the fact that both of those games run pretty well on the Steam Deck, and then you look at The Last of Us, I think it's pretty fair to assume with just that evidence that The Last of Us Part 1 will run pretty well on the Steam Deck in handheld form, but also you got to look at all the other ports Sony has done for PC. And look, I know there are issues with a couple of them, like Horizon Forbidden West. I think the port is just like 70% there. It's just not a great port, but the game doesn't run all that well on PS4 and 5 either. It has very similar issues no matter where you play it. And then the other issue game is Sackboy: A Big Adventure. I'm not exactly sure if they fixed the issue yet, but it has the most annoying issue with PC games these days, which is compilation stutter, where you have the shaders, they're not cached on the game launching. So every time something happens for the first time in the game, you get like a little micro stutter. And for some people, it's not that annoying. I personally don't understand how it's not annoying to you. Like for me, it's an instant like game breaker. I don't want to play the game until I have those shaders cached. Elden Ring also had and still has this issue on PC, which is super frustrating. And that's kind of what made the Steam Deck one of the best places to play that game, because Valve was able to make it so that the shaders compiled and then you didn't have that stutter. And I've actually noticed a lot of games that had that stuttering issue in the past running better on the Steam Deck. So yeah, taking those two games aside that really were kind of rough launches for PlayStation, everything else pretty much across the board has been a banger release in terms of PC ports. Like they personally, in my opinion, are running laps around Microsoft when it comes to PC ports. And I think when you take all of this evidence, it was easy to assume again that The Last of Us Part 1 wouldn't have any trouble. But if you need more proof, we got proof from the man himself, Neil Druckmann. So once the game's release date, which is my birthday, March 3rd, 2023, was announced at the Game Awards, someone on Twitter found the Steam page on their Steam Deck and they said, I guess I should wait and see until I see the compatibility with the Steam Deck before I decide to pre-order it or not. I will be buying a PC sometime this spring, but this is so cool to see. And then Neil Druckmann swooped in with the quote retweet that made everyone so happy. He's got a gif of Bill doing the Ron Swanson fist bump. I'm pretty sure that's what he's doing. And he says, Ellie and Joel will grace the Steam Deck, don't worry. So yeah, that's pretty much all the confirmation I needed that we will be able to play The Last of Us Part 1 on launch on the Steam Deck, which for me personally, like I mentioned, is going to be the best birthday gift ever. This is like such a good game and it's perfect for the deck. It's another one of those games that, yes, it does look and play incredible at 60 FPS. It was awesome playing through it at that frame rate on the PlayStation 5, but it was originally made for 30 FPS gameplay. Like the original version on PS3 was 30 FPS. Naughty Dog are like technical wizards that make their games hold frame rates perfectly throughout. So I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue to play through this game at 30 FPS. I would just say, if you have a beefier gaming PC, you might want to play through this the first time on your TV with the controller. Use the DualSense features because it's such a cinematic masterpiece of a game, graphically speaking and gameplay speaking, that I think you're going to want to see it on your TV. And then for subsequent playthroughs like the New Game Plus, where you now get to keep your weapons across playthroughs, that's when you're going to want to play on the Steam Deck and you really want to clean up those combat encounters and maybe even get 100% of the trophies. The other game that was announced for PC from Sony, Returnal, that one might be a different story. In the last video, I kind of just assumed it would be a great handheld experience on the deck just because people have been able to dig into the database of Steam. Like they found this game in the background. It used to be called Oregon, and they found images that pointed to it being deck verified. But then after I made my video, the recommended specs came out and they're honestly pretty beefy. Like you need a decent processor, a decent graphics card, but the thing that's really throwing people for a loop is the fact that for recommended settings, you need 32 gigabytes of RAM. I think that must be for all the particles on screen, or maybe it has something to do with the instant respawn feature that game includes, but I don't know. I still have a decent feeling about this game on Steam Deck, despite the fact that it does not have 32 gigs of RAM. This is just like totally me assuming things and just like putting layman 2 and 2 together, so I could be completely wrong, but I feel like it helps that the chip running the Steam Deck, like the APU, is an RDNA 2 chip, so it's just like an underclocked version of the PS5's actual chip. And the Steam Deck is utilizing pretty fast storage. I know the SSDs people are buying haven't been up to the speeds of the PS5, but we'll talk about that more in a second. And SD cards totally vary. You kind of have to run a script on some of them to make them run at their full speed, but still, I think this game could be fine at 30 FPS, right? Like, is recommended settings going for 60 FPS or is it going for 30? What's the resolution? I don't know. I feel like this game isn't totally worth writing off completely though yet, just because it's awesome and I really want to hold out hope. So what I'm really hoping is that Sony provides codes to Digital Foundry or my buddy SkillUp, because they've been doing a really good job with their videos looking at the Steam Deck. Like in the Digital Foundry performance analyses, they always talk about the Steam Deck if it is a game that they think will run well on the Steam Deck. And SkillUp, pretty much every PC game, he has a little section for Steam Deck. And another person that I watch all the time who does the same thing is Mortismal Gaming. So hopefully one of those three people, or a combination of all three, end up with a code early, and then we can find out how Returnal is going to run on Steam Deck sooner rather than later. But one thing I'm also pretty certain will help with games like Returnal is this new SSD from Sabrent. It's a 2230 SSD, which is cool on its own because I thought these things would get more prevalent, right? Like you'd be be able to just go to the store and buy like maybe a Steam Deck branded SSD, because that's exactly what happened with the PlayStation 5. If you guys don't know, I have another channel called PS Ready, and I talk about SSDs all the time on that channel because there's official branded ones like the SN850 Pro, which for some reason is $10 more than the non-PS5 branded one. There's the Samsung 980 Pro with heatsink. There's the FireCuda 530. Like, there are so many works with PS5 branded SSDs at this point that I don't know, I just assumed the same thing would happen with the Steam Deck, and so far that hasn't been the case. Like the 1TB 2230 SSD that I have in my Steam Deck now, I got it on eBay and it's a used Microsoft Surface SSD. So yeah, things overall are running a little bit behind there, you know? But now, like I mentioned, we have this new one from Sabrent coming very soon, and it has multiple different sizes. You've got a 256GB version, you've got 512, and then you have the coveted 1TB SSD, and unfortunately there's no pricing on it yet. I'm assuming that 1TB one will be pretty expensive just because the one I got was around $200, which is crazy when you consider that a 1TB SSD being $200 compares to something like the Samsung 980 Pro, which is a 2TB drive with a heatsink that's full size, and that one goes for around $230 now. So you're getting double the storage there. So you're paying a big premium for shrinking the drive down. But the thing that makes this drive worth paying attention to, in my opinion, is its read and write speed. So in the 256GB version, your read speed is going to be 4650 megabits per second, and your write speed is going to be 1900. On the 512GB version, you're going to get 5000 as your read speed and 3700 on the write. And then in the 1TB version, weirdly, you're going to get 4750 on the read speed and 4300 on the write. The cool thing about these speeds is that they are very fast. They're actually just below across the board what you would need for a PlayStation 5, and the PlayStation 5 has a very high drive speed requirement because games have instant loading now, and games transfer so much quicker, and games have ended up being smaller in the long run because of the console using an SSD. So when you look at this drive and you think about a game like Returnal where you have instant respawns, I'm really curious if the Steam Deck is going to be able to take advantage of these speeds. Like, I cannot wait to get my hands on one of these drives and test loading speeds, because I've seen in The Witcher 3, for example, the new next-gen version of the game, fast travel is like instant in that on the PlayStation 5. So I'd love to see on the PC or even the Steam Deck if having this much faster read-write speed SSD inside my device makes those loading times even faster on the Steam Deck, because some games like Need for Speed Unbound, for example, the first load is very long. I don't know why, it just happens with some games. It must be like an optimization thing. I don't really think it's necessarily on the Steam Deck's end, but yeah, a lot of open world type experiences, they have that really long first initial load, and then it's fine once you're in the game. But yeah, again, Need for Speed Unbound, loading into the game the first time made me feel like I was playing Midnight 3 Dub Edition on my PSP. You guys remember how long the load times were on that? It's really on par. Just on that initial load though, the load times were insane from race to race on Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. Like, I can't believe Rockstar got away with that back in the day. So yeah, like I mentioned, unfortunately, there's no wording on price with this drive just yet, but Sabrent says it's going to be at their warehouse relatively soon. So I would guess we'll be able to get our hands on this drive in the first couple months of the year. And yeah, I'm really excited to get my hands on it. I have a 1TB SSD inside my Steam Deck. Like I mentioned, it's great. I know a lot of people are like, just get a 1TB SD card, but I have a lot of games and I like storing a lot of emulated games, specifically PS2 and PSP games, and those add up quick. I also use my Steam Deck as a media player sometimes, so I have a lot of my Apple Music stuff on there, and yeah, it takes up a lot of space. So I need more storage on my Steam Deck, so having faster storage with this new SSD is really exciting to me personally. And the last news story I have for you guys today is a really cool update from Valve themselves. So last night I was playing Hades on my Steam Deck. Side note, I am absolutely addicted to that game right now. I've started it so many times and I don't know why this is the time it's absolutely clicked with me. But regardless, I was super excited when I saw this tweet show up on my phone from the On Deck Twitter. It says, "We've just shipped a quality of life update to the store experience on Steam Deck, mostly focused around navigation. This is a server-side update, so you won't need to do a software update to see these improvements." So I grabbed my deck to check it out, and yeah, I can confirm that the store has been loading a lot faster, and the whole experience across the board has been much smoother. There was one super annoying issue I was dealing with for a long time on the store, where you would go down to like the new or trending section or the top selling games sections, and you would go to the bottom of the list, and when you would hit load more games, it would bring you back up to the top of the list, and then you'd have to scroll all the way down. So if you kept loading more and more games, it got more and more irritating as time went on, because the list of top sellers would get longer and longer, and it would jump you back to the top, and you'd have to scroll all the way down, and it would just bog down the entire experience. But now when I hit show more, it keeps the cursor right exactly where it was, and then if I scroll down, it keeps me right where I was in the list. You can see RimWorld and The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt right there. But yeah, I also noticed that scrolling is a lot faster, it generates images a lot quicker, it doesn't get slowed down or drop frames when you're scrolling through the store. Other issues I ran into were button prompts like wouldn't actually work. I would touch them on the screen, I would kind of get the cursor over it, like the category tabs on the top, they would just not register a lot of the time. I also had issues where I would hit the download button after purchasing a game and games wouldn't download, and that seems to also be resolved. So it's kind of cool that Steam is doing this on the back end, where if they make big changes like this to the actual store experience, you don't have to go and download an entire new software update for your console. I've never really seen stuff like that happen other than with, ironically, the PlayStation 3. They redesigned the PlayStation Store on the PS3 so many times, and it was weird to see that every time you would just launch the new store, it would just open up a web browser and that would bring you to the new experience. And it would translate across to the PlayStation Store on web as well. It was kind of a cool system. The PS3 would just get totally bogged down by it, and I think they've finally figured it out the best now with the PlayStation 5 by having the store be its own actual dedicated app that's baked into the home screen of the console, because on the PS4 it was also a web-based app and it never really worked all that well. But on the Steam Deck it seems to work great, and I'm glad that Valve is constantly improving it. It's nice to see them do these smaller changes because, you know, that's an important thing for them to keep updated. The ability to buy games, that's how they're going to make all their money. So yeah, guys, that about wraps it up for this Steam Deck video. Let me know what you think about all these games coming to the Steam Deck down in the comments. Also, let me know if you're going to pick up one of these faster Sabrent drives. And then finally, let me know what games you're planning on picking up in the winter sale. That's how I'm going to know you watched till the end of the video, if you let me know what games you're picking up in the winter sale. Anyway, guys, as always, my name is Jimmy Champagne, and I'll see you in the next one. Shape on.